Hello everyone, Ryan here. So a while ago I was tagged by fellow booktuber literarylizzzy to do the Cosmere Book Tag. And unfortunately it's taken me quite a while to get around to doing it. But that's primarily because I don't read a lot of fantasy books. These questions are mostly, they revolve around at least some kind of basic knowledge of the whole fantasy genre. So at least that's how I interpreted the questions. But I'm going to do them anyway. So first question: Elantris, a book or series where the magic fails its people. Now I was really thinking about this. And again, because I don't read very many fantasy books, there was one that I read quite a while ago which has this question. Actually, it made me really think, but it really reminded me of this book series that I read a while ago. And I forget the exact name of it. But I remember one of the authors was, because there was two authors, one of them was Mercedes Lackey, I believe. And the very first book in the series is titled The Outstretched Shadow. And to me it reminded me of, it was kind of like Lord of the Rings, but on steroids. I mean, because it involved this long epic journey. And there was magic involved, except like the way the magic was set up, it was very intricate, and also in this series, the use of magic was a lot more prolific. In other words, like many different characters, they used magic a lot more often than in something else, than in like Lord of the Rings, or possibly even in many other series. So yeah, but in that one, there was like, I want to say maybe a handful of times where the magic kind of like disappoints people, and but it's very interesting. I mean, I definitely got to reread that first book that I mentioned, The Outstretched Shadow. Yeah. Number 2, Mistborn, your favorite ragtag gang. I don't know. Pretty much all the characters in that series I mentioned. Yeah. Either that or I would say the only other one that comes to mind is like the gang, the entire group of characters that are in Lord of the Rings. Frodo and what's his name? Gandalf and it. Yeah. Number 3, Warbreaker, an interesting family dynamic. I don't know. I really can't. And this is another question I really racked my brain on. And family dynamic. I don't know. I really don't know. Yeah. Number 4, Stormlight Archive, the biggest book you've read and the biggest book on your TBR. Well, I mean, it may not be a fantasy, but I would say for me, the biggest book I read, or thickest, and the one with a lot of pages, was Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison, I believe. Yeah. Not The Invisible Man, because I know there's another book titled The Invisible Man by H.G. Wells. But there's another one that's just Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison. And that one was, I want to say it was like close to 600 pages. Very, very awesome book, well written. I definitely got to reread it at some point, but I just remember it took me so long to get through it the first time, and but definitely well worth reading. And as far as like the longest on my TBR, I'd say most definitely War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. Because otherwise, yeah, I really don't have any like long fantasy kind of books on my TBR currently. So, number 5, Alloy Era, a series continuation or prequel, sequel you didn't like as much as the original. I don't know. For this one, I'm going to have to dip into the Star Wars universe. Because there are Star Wars novelizations of, like, different stories, different moments within the Star Wars universe, the Star Wars timeline, and pretty much, like, the prequel stuff. There's some of the prequel stuff I like, but also some that I don't like. And same with some of the sequel kind of stuff, but I mean, as far as when it comes to the movies, like, I've really enjoyed the recent Star Wars movies. So, yeah, I guess the only ones, like, that I really have any kind of actual complaints about are the prequels. So, yeah. But even then, I still enjoy the prequels, but just not as much as the other movies or other books and graphic novels. And, number 6, White Sand, an underdog you root for. I don't know, pretty much, I think sometimes, usually I'll root for the underdog if he or she is clever, witty, smart, yeah. It's like, otherwise if the underdog is like, comes off as like a complete jerk, I won't root for them. But I pretty much root for any underdog. I don't have a favorite or anything like that, so. Number 7, Arcanum Unbounded. Your favorite anthology, which is a collection of short works. I guess I don't have a favorite. I used to read a lot of anthologies and like large collections of short stories, poems, essays, and I guess some of them were of the fantasy genre, most of them weren't. But don't really have a favorite. Number 8, in Investiture, Coolest Magic System. Again, I'm going to go back to that series I mentioned in the beginning, in question 1, which starts with the first book, The Outstretched Shadow. Like I said, because to me it reminded me of like Lord of the Rings on steroids, but because they use magic a lot more often. The magic system in that, I remember that being really interesting because it was like, and in order for them to cast any kind of spell, they had to like gather a certain amount of items to use them, and then not only that, but once a spell was cast, then whoever the person was that did the casting, then a certain amount of their energy would be drained, and they would have to like pretty much sleep it off for a certain amount of time. And yeah, and then also too, in addition to that, they had to do this thing where it was kind of like a way of like paying back the energy that they used, the different elements that they called upon in order to cast that spell. And yeah, I don't know, it might sound complicated, but I remember it was pretty interesting, pretty cool as well. So yeah. And then number 9, Shadesmar. a book with alternate realms. I don't know, Cat in the Hat. Does Lord of the Rings count? I think it kind of does. Like I said, I don't read a lot of fantasy. It's been a really long time since the last time I read anything from the fantasy genre. So, but hey, I still appreciate being tagged in this, and thanks, Literary Lizzy, for tagging me in this. Final one is just who do you tag? I guess I'm going to tag Mindy from Mindy's Book Journey, Alex Black, Todd, Todd the Librarian. He's pretty much like the tag king. And Dane from Dane Reads. So, yeah. That pretty much does it for this tag. Once again, thanks for tagging me in this, Lizzy, Literary Lizzy. Sorry it took me a while to get to it, but yeah, I finally got around to it. So, yeah, that'll do it. And for the rest of you, especially if you're into the fantasy genre and you like this tag, definitely feel free to go ahead and do it. So, yeah, thanks for watching this. Thanks for listening. As always, next time, don't forget, keep it real, keep on rocking, and peace.